I came over earlier and power cycled this camera and got control of it back, and I was able to pan it round to the front of Dadang's house and all was well. So I went back to the lounge room, thought I might just pan back and have a look at that trellis that was under restrictions for me yesterday, and of course the thing pan, zoom, round and round until it stopped pretty much the original position. So I came over here and just power cycled this thing again and got control back, and you can see that that trellis structure has fallen down entirely now, obstructing that path, so Daddy's got some work cut out for him. Of course I'm not allowed to go out and help because it might be slippery. And this is the view from the Genset enclosure. What a mess. Oh well. That's what you get when you construct with wood in the tropics. And the fuel gauge is back to where it was before I put fuel in it the other day. So it needs another 30 litres or so to top it up. Today is Tuesday. I came over here yesterday and successfully installed Windows 10 on a spare disk. So now I have that available to me, and I've got Shadow Protect installed on it as well, so now I should be able to use that to restore the partitions on the proper boot disk. So we'll see how I go. And it's a very dull day today, so and it was yesterday, so we were fine to get through the night, but when the house system starts importing from this system in an hour or two, or maybe even less, it's going to pull this system in the shed down to the level where it needed to restart or needed to start the genset. So I've done a preemptive start on that, and I'll run this up pretty high because it's going to get pulled down again several times as the house does transfers during the day. I started this using the Genset button on the front of this electronic inside, but I've just come out and switched it from auto to start because I don't want this electronic deciding, okay, I can shut it off now. I want it to run longer. And of course, because I haven't installed all the motherboard specific drivers for this installation, it's just using the default drivers, which means that instead of getting a gigabit per second, I've got 100 megabits per second transfer rate, transferring data from the NAS across to a local drive. I got to do that because for some reason or other Shadow Protect doesn't want to look at the NAS. So okay, I'll copy a set of files off the NAS to the spare space on the local disk and restore from there. So yeah, it might be here for a while. It says time remaining about 55 minutes. Well, the genset stopped spontaneously after what must have been considerably more than an hour, I think. So I just went out and I've reset it and set it to auto so that if it needs to start before I get back to it, it will. May not keep going, but at least it'll start. But we were up over 80% when it stopped, so even though the house is importing, it'll take a little while to pull it down from 80%. When it gets back down to about 40, I'll come over and start it again. But I'm starting to warm up, so when this reaches the end of its transfer, I shall shut the PC down to come back another time. So it's got about 7 minutes to go. I swear you can just about see the ice growing out the back of the shed here. Here we have one of the local natives. They know them here as crotocs, which is pretty much the sound they make. Well, it's after lunch. The house has been importing, so our numbers are down over here. We were up here, So there we go, Genset on. And I'll resume with my Windows 10 restoration attempt. Well, that's truly bizarre. The damn PC booted up from the original system disk, which was the one that it wouldn't boot from previously. It did come up a bit screwed up though. And you'll see I have no taskbar, and the resolution's way off, and it won't let me set the correct resolution for this screen. So I still may I will reboot from the correct disk and do a restore of this particular partition. Well, I may have figured this one out. I think it was coming up with an oil indicator on the panel when it failed, which is cleared now, but I checked the dipstick and the oil level showed probably 20-25 millimeters above the high level. And I thought, aha, must be getting a bit of blow-by with the diesel into the sump. So what I did was I drained about a litre out, or a litre and a half, and that's got the level down back to the top of the dipstick, or top of the acceptable range of the dipstick. So I'm going to put this on auto and see what happens next time it runs. And of course there's always a spill. Well, I've sort of got Windows working again on its original disk, or SSD. Just more work to be done to clean it up by the look of it. But I'll get there. But for now I'm getting too hot, so I'm going to call it quits and go back home. I don't know whether the Genset's going to keep going or not, but I'll just let it go now that I've got the thing with the oil level decreased a bit. Well, the house battery's at 98.2%, so given that it's almost 3:30, that's probably enough to get us through the night. So what are we got on the just look at my phone here and manipulate. So the shed here is at 47.4. I think I'd like to get that up to about 55-60 before I shut down. Although it's 52 now, it might shut down automatically at 55. I'll just keep an eye on it for a little while. Well, I swapped the Genset from start to auto, and at 55% it shut down and remained with no error indicator on the stop button, so it'll start again later if it needs to, but we should be good for the rest of the day. That same Crotok sitting there several hours later, I'm wondering whether he might be deceased. I don't think I'll inquire too closely. The cloud is not as thick as it was, so now we've got 3.2 kilowatts of input at the house and a consumption of only 1.9, so we're going to gain on battery level there. And over at the shed we're at 2.9 kilowatts input, only 0.1 kilowatt consumption, and 56%, so we're going to increase our state of charge there quite well. And at the house we're at 99, so we're good. We'll get through to tomorrow now without running the Genset again, unless there's a power outage and we suddenly have other houses needing power from here. I've just reprogrammed the automatic timer switch for the switching of the old switchboard between PLN and off-grid through the 2C breaker. Note to self, change it across to manual from auto before resetting timer clock in future, because it momentarily disables the control lines for the top one, which means I lost the switch, but since it's momentary it sort of goes zzz, which is a bit disconcerting. So anyway, I've programmed it now so that it should switch this off between 9 AM and 9 PM. But of course that program is set now, but it hasn't seen the transition because it's after 10 now. So at 9 o'clock tonight it'll stay as it is, but 9 o'clock tomorrow morning it'll go clunk and change the old switchboard across to the off-grid system. If it doesn't, I'll come investigating. Oh, that's interesting. It was making its noise, so I switched it across to manual, stopped making the noise, switched it back to auto, and went it bang, and the magic smoke escaped. So it might currently be dead. I better go and find out whether the yeah, well, work to be done. Well, the good news is it's not completely dead. We still actually have power from the off-grid system to the old switchboard. But I switched it to manual, and I cannot switch it to the PLN anymore. So that means it's not going to switch from off-grid at 9 o'clock tonight. So it will probably deplete the systems. Gonna have to replace that with a spare. What I had really intended to do is to fix up this handle. This handle is for the valve on the oil drain on the sump of the genset. But because the valve is screwed in a little bit too much clockwise, that handle impacts the engine mounts. So what I need to do is bend that out straight, I think, and then it will be okay. But whether I can do that without applying heat and thereby destroying that plastic covering, I don't know. Well, it turns out that handle fits to the left rather than the right. So the handle didn't need to be straightened out or bent or anything. Just leaves me more confused as to why they didn't fit it originally. Never mind, that's done, easily fixed. The engine's showing 140 hours and 11 minutes run time. So depending on the model, these things are supposed to be serviced at 250 or 500 hours, but I think with that degree of dilution of the sump oil, we probably should do an oil and filter change. So I'll see what I can do to organise that. Well, replaced the dud myself, as was off busy working somewhere. So to do this safely, it's just a matter of turning off that switch up there, which turns off that supply, and turning off 2C on that switchboard, which turns off that supply. And I did actually check with the multimeter before and after to make sure the right things were happening. Then, as you can see, 6 screws, 2 plugs, and it's all good, back to normal now. But because the clock was turned off, even though it retains the time, it didn't retain the fact that it should have been set to on at the moment, which would have disconnected this and run us off the off-grid, but that's okay. My concern was that if we got to 9 PM tonight, this thing was going to expect to turn this control circuit back on, but this switch in my hand here, it's stuffed. The magic smoke escaped through those 2 little holes in the front. So it was going to leave us on off-grid all night on 2 air conditioners and all the lighting in the house. And that might have pushed the off-grid system a bit too far. So in theory it would just recharge from the shed, and if the shed got too low it would run the genset automatically. But I haven't tested to my satisfaction yet that the genset's over its problems it was having. So this is where we're at. So I've ordered 2 more of these as spares because they appear to be consumable. That's the second one of those that I've replaced. Okay, it's coming up on 9 AM on Friday, and at 9 AM that red light on the top there should go out, and the red light on the little box next to it should come on. Actually in opposite sequence. And the whole thing should go clunk, and that switch to the red, switch to the left should switch to the lower position. If it doesn't do that, I've got my programming wrong. I was standing back a bit in case it goes bang and flash and is rather ugly, like it was yesterday, because that was a bit scary. There we go. Worked as programmed. That's what we like to see. Well, it's Friday. Normally I'd go out the back and point the camera towards the shed, but my sandals have been taken by my younger stepson, despite Jabito saying don't do that. He's not good at listening. So I don't have the right outdoor sandals to go out the back. So I've come out the front. And I got to go and edit down my video and find out what I've recorded this week. All I can remember is the Genset oil and changing that automatic transfer switch. I don't know what else is on this video till I go and edit it down. But anyway, that's what you'll see shortly. Well, actually, what you've already seen by the time you hear this, but I will see it shortly.